Good evening. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another edition of Talking Point. My name is Fahraaz Patel. I'll be in your company for the next 45 to 50 minutes. We'd like to thank you, the viewer, for staying with us here on Hilaal TV channel 347. Now, last week, a new political party was formed, the African Congress for Transformation. And it was formed by an ANC stalwart, of course, its former Secretary General, Mr. Ace Magashule. Today, he is my guest that is in studio. Mr. Magashule, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us here on Talking Point on Hilaal TV.
Well, thanks very much, Faraz, and good evening and good day to all the viewers out there at Halal TV. I'm happy to be here.
No, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here. As a politician like yourself, Mr. Magashule, who has been, it's no real wilderness. I mean, you were out for maybe a few months. You're back in it. How does it feel to be back and, of course, forming your
people
party?
Say, when you leave the ANC, you are...
It's cold outside.
It's cold. No, it's not cold at all.
Yeah.
Because that movement is not the same movement we joined and sacrificed our lives for. The same values, the same principles, the same objectives of the African National Congress is the same objective African Congress for Transformation is going to strive for, except that we will be not talking, we'll be implementing, and it's nice talking to Talking Point.
I'll touch on. You mentioned the ANC's lost its values, but we'll touch on that in a bit. The African Congress for Transformation, when you launched it last week, it's a party for the politically abused. Do correct me if I'm wrong. If that's what the slogan, not the official slogan, but it's something that you mentioned during your press conference. Why the formation of a new party, and what is it that you feel was necessary to form this new party?
Well, I've been in the African National Congress for more than 45 or 46, 44 years, when it was banned and unbanned. I've served under President Mandela, President Beki, President Zuma, and South Africa was flourishing. South Africa was becoming a very wonderful country to live in. There wasn't the crime we see today. There wasn't the economic meltdown we see. There wasn't homelessness we see. There wasn't hopelessness we see. We see businesses, big and small, collapsing. There was never load shedding. There was never water shedding. There were never potholes. Sometimes people want to say we left potholes. No, during our times, even when we were in government, they were not potholes. They still blame us for potholes, and I've been out as premier for maybe the last 8 years or so. And people still say, potholes and all that. No, during our term, there hasn't been such. But I'll give credit to the ANC where it is needed. But it is no more the ANC we know.
Okay. When, obviously, yes, last week when you launched the party, the values that your party wants to bring, if somebody's looking at Ace Magashule, who used to be the Premier of the Free State or the ANC Secretary General, to Ace Magashule, who is the ACT leader, where is the stark contrast between the values from the ANC and the ACT, that when the voters are going to the polls next year, they can say, this is a party that brings something different to maybe what the ANC has?
Economy, too. That's why we call it the People's Organization. But we fundamentally, we have moved from, we managed to get political freedom as black majority. And I mean, when I talk black majority, I talk so-called coloreds, so-called Indians, so-called Africans, whatever the term you may actually want to use. Sometimes I'm sensitive because people no longer want these terms. They regard themselves as South Africans. But for for the betterment of understanding where South Africa comes from. People like you and I were excluded from the mainstream economy. You can see even today, who are the people? I listen to Dr. Mulapo, I listen to Iqbal Seif, Dr. Seif. Who are the people benefiting in the economy? Few white monopoly capital or monopoly families, not just even many other white businesses are also suffering. But the economy must be in our hands. And we don't see it happening. So, and that's why I will appeal to all the Indian community, especially the Muslim community, to become active. And because they have participated in the struggle against apartheid, but we want them now to be more active for us to change the patterns of the economy and bring back economic transformation. So we are going to be different because we're going to implement. And we are very positive. People are saying we are starting late, but I think we are very positive that we will have numbers. And then we are going to also approach the Muslim Council. We are going to talk to Muslim communities all over South Africa. Whatever, we need everybody. And that's why we call it the People's Party. And even our leadership must reflect all South Africans. So we are going to be against privatization. We are against, and we are going to act against privatization. We are going to act against retrenchment. We are going to act against economic exclusion of people like you and I. We have to participate in the economy of this country.
Yeah, I want to talk about the problems that are plaguing us as South Africans later on. You speak about wanting to get other South Africans involved. Myself being an Indian Muslim, we've got the colored community here in South Africa. We even have the white community because at the end of the day, they're still South Africans. How do you sell them that the ACT is probably a party to be involved in and they can be active in it? Because what I've noticed is that many of the other South Africans, and I talk about Indians, coloreds, especially them who were excluded during apartheid and colonialism, don't really have a say now in the modern South Africa where they can get involved, not just politically, but from a business perspective. And the only way you can get involved is if you have some sort of connection or something within government.
Well, my political involvement, my performance in government, when I was premier, I was MEC for 5 departments. When I was in government, unfortunately, I was in government in the province. But once we are given an opportunity to be government nationally, this is where people are going to see us. That is the difference. I've never participated in national government. I've participated in national parliament because I was once, for 4 or 5 years, I was in parliament, 1997 to 2002 or 2004, whatever period, that 5 years from 97. So it will be good because we will engage them. And that's why we say we are a people's party. We don't want people, we don't want to decide on behalf of people. We want people, and that's why we don't have leadership. We are making a call to South Africans to all join. And once they have joined, end October, November, we'll be unveiling the leadership. And we want the Muslim community, Muslim leaders, colored leaders, whoever, white leaders, African leaders, whoever, South Africans, we want that disabled people, deaf people, those who are disgruntled, those who are homeless, those who are... We want to see it from the voting station. We want to see it from every town. We want to see it from every region, district, and province. That is who we are. And our colors talk about the land, the people, the economy. These are the most key important things: the land, the economy, and the blood of the people who, that's why you see red today, the blood of our people who sacrifice their lives and continue sacrificing their lives for the sake of building a non-racial South Africa, which in terms of the constitution is a secular country. We respect religion, various people. We respect who we are. We respect human beings. And that's what we are not going to be the organization which talks. We are going to be the, the organization which implements, the organization which acts on behalf of the people of South Africa.
After the break, I continue my conversation with African Congress for Transformation leader, Mr. Ace Magashule. Do stay tuned. Welcome back to Talking Point. I'm still in conversation with the African Congress for Transformation, the ACT. Its leader, it's a newly formed party that occurred last week, Mr. Ace Magashule. Mr. Magashule, I want to talk about a member that's part of your party, Mr. Burning Ntlemeza. Now, he was the Hawks head. There's a bit of he's a bit tainted, right? I don't want to talk about that, but just him being part, what did you see in him that you felt he can bring some sort of value to the ACT?
Well, he's not tainted. Remember, he was appointed by the ANC government. The panel which appointed him was a panel of ministers who comes from the governing or ruling party. And he did not appoint himself. And later on, because of the political infights and factionalism within that organization, that government, then people say he's tainted. No, this movement and General Ntlemeza is one of the people who approached me when young people were calling upon me and others, and you'll see others later. The churches, the youth, the traditional leaders and traditional healers, and some of the Muslim community leaders, I'll talk about them as time goes on, approach me and say, why don't the ANC, we are disgruntled, the ANC has abandoned its values, it has abandoned its policies, it is not implementing their highest decision-making body, conference decisions, they are not establishing the state bank, they don't care about the poor nowadays, is an organization captured by the rich, white monopoly, and we don't dislike white people. We are non-racial. So General Ntlemeza was one of those people who approached us and say, we think you must do the following things. And I said, well, let it be the movement of the people. It shouldn't be Magashule's party. And that's why I'm an interim leader for now, with an interim leadership. And we are calling upon all South Africans to join. And later on, definitely end October, you'll see the leadership. But we are already on the ground, working and campaigning.
Mr. Magashule, one man who is obviously a very good friend of yours, Mr. Carl Niehaus. There was a lot of talk you and him were you are gonna join his party, the one that he's formed now, or he was gonna join the ACT. I'm assuming you guys still have quite a good relationship.
No, we've got a very quite good relationship.
He speaks fondly of you all the time. Yeah.
I also respect Carl Niehaus, and is one person I will respect all the time because he's a white man who, during the years of struggle, sacrificed his life for a real non-racial South Africa, for freedom, for democracy, for freedom of association, freedom of speech. He was privileged. He comes from a reasonably rich family. And he abandoned all those because he was a real freedom fighter. He was once an ambassador. I don't know why people don't even refer to Carl Niehaus as Ambassador Carl Niehaus. He was the spokesperson, one of the best communicators during Mandela's time. He was he was part of the speech writers for Nelson Mandela. He was in the first National Executive Committee of the ANC, national. So Carl Niehaus is not just somebody. He sacrificed his life in prison. He was in Pretoria Central, when others were, because white people were not allowed at Robben Island. So what a wonderful person, very principled, and that's why I will remain close to him. He's a good man. Whatever weaknesses, whatever people say and criticize him for, but I like him for being really principled and for having sacrificed his life with many other white Democrats. Those are the people we need. So we're still working together. We're still very close. It's just that he's a writer and I'm a part of African Congress for Transformation.
Another very good friend of yours, former President Jacob Zuma, I mean, he's been outcast by the ANC also. You have a strong relationship with him, I'm assuming, also at the same time.
Oh, the man who came with 2030 vision. When people talk about Jacob Zuma, they sometimes talk about his qualification academically. No, Walter Sisulu had the same standard 3. And Walter Sisulu mentored Nelson Mandela. Jacob Zuma and many others cared about their brothers and sisters going to school, and they left the country, participated in the struggle. They opened our eyes as South Africans. They sacrificed their lives outside. A well-educated and organic intellectual. I have served under Nelson Mandela. I've served under President Mbeki. I've served under Jacob Zuma. The man who came with vision when the ANC was planning ad hocly, 5 years, Jacob Zuma, president, came with a Vision 20 National Development Plan, Vision 2030. It was during Jacob Zuma's time, 2009, when he became president, when he prioritized, the ANC prioritized education, it prioritized health, it prioritized rural entrepreneur development, rural development, and you saw kids going to school. You saw black people, black business, Muslim business, Indian business, African business. You saw that surge of people. You saw a lot of people living better, not with a grant of 350. There was more employment because he's a very warm person. He's a very lovely person. He stays amongst. He's one person who has never abandoned ordinary people. That's why he doesn't stay somewhere else. He stays in Nkandla, where he's surrounded by the poorest masses of our people. What a lovely person and a very principled man. Like Lula, President Lula, Brazil, the intention was to remove Zuma because Zuma was empowering black people. Zuma was coming with free, quality education, which the party promised in 1994. If you go to the manifesto of the ANC, free, quality education. Jacob Zuma, it was the hope of the hopeless, the hope of young people. Jacob Zuma was a magnet, and he is still a magnet. And I will forever respect him with the likes of the late Kresani, the likes of the late Winnie Mandela, the likes of the young lion Peter Mokaba. Those, I'll still remember him with the likes of Robert Sobukwe, the people who made us conscious when the ANC was banned, Stephen Bantu Biko. This movement is going to remember all those struggle heroes and heroines of our struggle and martyrs of our struggle. It's not the preview of the African National Congress. Those people belong to the masses. And Jacob Zuma, it's corruption. Like Lula, corruption. Like all of us, corruption. But because they don't want to see us, because we are the transformers. We are the people who are going to change. Waking with the masses of our people, we are making our people aware that the indigenous people of this country must actually be participating in the mainstream economy. We must radically transform the South African economy and put it in the hands of the majority of South Africans.
Mr. Magashule, one party that probably shares a vision similar to yours is the EFF with regards to, making it state-owned. especially the Reserve Bank. Mr. Julius Malema speaks very fondly of you. Now, I was one of them that thought you were going to be joining the EFF. Were there ever any discussions between you and Mr. Malema? Because again, I said he speaks fondly of you, and you yourself speak quite fondly of him, because your relationship doesn't start from now. It starts from obviously when he was in COSAS and he was a student leader, rising all the way through to the Youth League.
Well, he comes from a great province, Limpopo. The first president of COSAS comes from Limpopo, If Mokhale. Peter Mugaba comes from Limpopo. And one of the people who mentored us and who mentored also Julius Malema is Winnie Madikizela Mandela. That woman was the real Mbokoto. Many people, young and old, from across the country were actually all the time going to Winnie Mandela. So yes, Julius, it's and EFF, we share. We share trenches. We share the same vision. We share the same policies, objectives, because we want the economy in the hands of the majority of South Africans. And we are not saying to the white people, we'll take your economy, we'll take your wealth. We are saying, hey, this is our country. Remember how Jan van Riebeck and others came here. So let's participate. This is a cake for all of us. And if there has to be peace in this country, if there has to be stability, the wealth of the country, as our fathers and mothers said during those years, 1955, in the Freedom Charter, the wealth must be shared. But it must not just be shared. We are the indigenous people of this country. The gold and the mines and the diamonds, the coal and everything must be shared. It's us who have built this country. Our fathers, our forefathers, our grandmothers, grandmothers, they have participated in struggle against white monopoly domination. And I think it's time for us to say no white domination against no domination of anybody by any other person. We must actually live in peace and harmony.
After the break, I continue my conversation with Mr. Ace Magashule. Do stay tuned to Talking Point. Welcome back to Talking Point. I'm still in conversation with Mr. Ace Magashule, the African Congress for Transformation leader. Mr. Magashule, earlier on you said the ANC is not the party it used to be. You were with this party for over 4 decades. Of course, you ended your relationship with them a few months ago. Are you still ANC at heart? Because it's very difficult after 4 decades. That's as long as I'm alive. For there to just be all of a sudden a detachment emotionally, but also physically from a party that you served and were also in the trenches during those apartheid years.
Well, during the years of struggle, when the ANC was banned, as young people, we used to listen to Radio Freedom.
Yes.
That frequency was not easy to get, and you had to hide to get that frequency. And we interacted with people who were infiltrating South Africa, who were working in the underground world as Mkondo Wesizwe, but sent home to further educate, to further agitate, to activate society, to make them aware and conscious of the banned organization, African National Congress, the hope of South Africans then. Remember, I said I will dye black, green, and gold. Those colors are not the colors of the ANC.
Yeah.
Those colors defines who we also are. We are about the land. We are about the economy. We are about the blood of our people, we are about the land. So those principles will still fight for. And during those years, I didn't know, as I was struggling with many others against white domination, we didn't know that we'll be in government. I didn't know that I'll be premier. I did not even aspire. We were just concerned about living conditions of our people who were not actually having a right to vote. That's why we fought for that right to vote and vote whoever you want to vote for. And that's why I never left the ANC. The ANC leadership now actually expelled me from the movement. So I did not voluntarily leave the ANC. But I have accepted that, no, I have participated with many others to make sure that we have a free country. We have freedom of association, freedom of speech, freedom of, and that's why then we have this party. It's freedom of association. That's what we have fought for. And we shouldn't, when I go to church leaders, they say to me, religious leaders, they say to me, it's not about the name. Forget about the name and forget about what you have done. Young people don't know your struggle credentials. They don't worry about you are in exile, you are in prison, you were tortured, they want food, they want education, they want no load shedding, they want jobs, they want a better life which you promised in 1994 you committed yourself to do. So here we are. I don't feel cold. I think my mind is mentally I'm okay, physically I'm okay, and it's not cold because South Africans, the masses of our people are our shield, and I feel so warm inside this African Congress for transformation and the People's Organization. It might take long, but I can tell you it's going to grow very fast. And it's the right time for us to move forward and participate in the elections.
Mr. Magashule, you mentioned the three leaders you've served under: President Mandela, the late President Mandela, President Mbeki, President Zuma. I know you share a very strong affiliation with President Zuma. You did, of course, serve in those 5 years leading up to your expulsion under President Ramaphosa. You, of course, served in what would be the highest structures of the ANC as the Secretary General. I'm not going to talk from a personal feeling because the show is not about personal feelings between you and Mr. Ramaphosa, but from a party perspective, was there always a rift between you and President Ramaphosa? Because I remember in 2017 at the elective conference, a lot of people saw you as the Secretary General, him as the President. This was not a match made in heaven. Was there always a rift from the start, or did that rift develop over time, or was there no rift at all?
Well, you remember in 2012, when COSATU and SACP said that Mr. Ramaphosa is one of the bourgeois, and therefore can't lead the African National Congress. It was us, Zweli Mkhize, Supra Mahuma Pilu, Didi Mabuza, Sihle Zikalala, Nomvula Mkonyane and others, who then sat down and discussed. And we advised, no, not Cyril Ramaphosa. And a lot of branches throughout South Africa respected us. And despite the fact that we were warned, we actually pushed Cyril Ramaphosa. We approached him. He will tell you. We sent Zweli Mkhize to him, and we were advised. But in politics, there are those mistakes you commit. And come 2017, it was now COSATU and SACP. We said President Ramaphosa must actually take over. In struggle, we as Marxists, we talk about negation of negation, contradictions. Now the people who did not want him 2012 want him now 2017. We who wanted him 2012, now we did not want him 2020. So it's the nature of politics. And the tension in the ANC, factionalism in the ANC reared its ugly head. And there was the CR camp and there was an NDZ camp. An unfortunate situation. But this was well planned. If you analyze, this was well planned. The apartheid agents planned very well the fall, the rise and fall of the African National Congress, the timing. And we did not watch the space and time. I think when I look and flash back, I think we relaxed. And this is the time where we need to be more vigilant because the white people are actually uniting. And the black people, by black I mean all, Indian, colored, Muslims, whatever, we remain divided because and there are so many parties. So the white people are coming together because they know that they are in the minority and divide and rule, divide and rule. I so wish all progressive forces, if we want to go to the highest and make sure we transform radically the economy of South Africa and the lives of our people, we need to all come together. And I think we have such dreams, and I have such a dream that this is possible. And I'm saying to all South Africans, please, African Congress for Transformation and other progressive movements or parties, I'm sure at the right time, whenever, if we can all work together, black people, African people, Indian, colored, whatever, let's unite. The white Democrats, join us, let's unite and build a better country post-1994. After 30 years of freedom, I think that the gains of our revolutions have been reversed, and they are being reversed. Everything is collapsing because it is intentional, it is well planned.
Mr. Magashule, I have to stop you there because I want to bring in one question. Radical economic transformation, before we go to the break. You pushed for it, and it was one of the resolutions from the 2017 elective conference of the ANC. What's blocking that? Because, I mean, that's something you and a lot of members of the ANC, a lot of branch members on the ANC, pushed for it and said, this has to be done, and it has to be done as soon as possible.
That was a difference because we said the highest decision-making body, the National Conference, has decided. As a member who understands the African National Congress, when the highest decision-making body, you can go to Russia, you can go to China, you can go elsewhere. When the highest decision-making body has decided, your term is 5 years, you have to implement. You must not create excuses. You have to create that environment where you nationalize the Reserve Bank, where you establish a state bank. Now, if you establish a state bank, you are worried about the 5 monopoly banks that they are going to collapse because the money of the public must be with the state bank. And the state bank will even assist entrepreneurs who are emerging, who are growing. For now, there is no hope. As I said, even the middle class is collapsing. People's houses, people's cars, because of the economic meltdown. So it was one of the problems. State bank, nationalization of the Reserve Bank, the mines, land without compensation. So we were these people who say, we have to implement conference resolution. And those who work with white monopoly resisted, and they created conditions which made it difficult. And they say, no, but the material conditions don't allow us. No, I don't think that was our difference. But nevertheless, I give Joe, because it's not every leader of the ANC who has actually sold out. The ANC still has many good leaders, and I so wish that we win, and the right leaders of the movement must move with times. They must read the mood of the South African masses, and that mood tells them that, hey, you have abandoned us. So to those voters out there, young people who have never voted, the 18 years next year, those who are hopeless, who have no homes, those who are on the streets, who are involved in drugs. You know, the Cubans, when I was there with the late Jesse Duarte and Dumo Dlamini, former president of COSATU, the Cubans said, watch, the only thing the West will do to destroy your country is to bring drugs and kill young people. So you must stand up. Those young people you see who are using drugs, take care of them. Don't abandon them, and deal with crime, deal with all these things, deal with corruption. But they are going to talk about corruption, whilst they are the ones who are actually corrupt. So they will repeat it, and that's how they will destroy some of the good leaders. And I've mentioned Jacob Zuma here, but Jacob Zuma is still standing, a very strong leader.
Mr. Magashule, I have to stop you there. We have to go for a break. And after that, I wrap up my conversation with Mr. Ace Magashule. Do stay tuned. Welcome back to Talking Point. This is the final segment in my conversation with the African Congress for Transformation leader, Mr. Ace Magashule. Mr. Magashule, we are sitting on stage 6 load shedding. I know if we had to speak 10 years ago, this was not in the discussion. The energy crisis. I don't even know where to start, because this is really as bad as it can get.
Well, listen to what President Mbeki says about the energy crisis. What he says about one of the most competent administrators I have ever met, Brian Molefe.
Yes.
Gogo, the products of our struggle, organic as well as serious intellectuals. And hear what President Mbeki says. There wasn't this load shedding. He says this is deliberate. I think I share the same view. When I was Secretary General, the Chinese wanted to assist us. They wanted to send 40 energy experts. And you could see that time, even during COVID time, when we said, let's work with Russia, they have their vaccine. Let's work with China, they have our vaccine. And we said, let us all choose which vaccines to take. But we went where? West. Why couldn't we take interferon? If you Google interferon from Cuba,
yes,
which boosts your immune for almost 5 years, and our army was using it, why couldn't we have such a vaccine, which has been there for more than 31 years? Why couldn't you allow me to decide to take the Russian vaccine? Because it's my choice. While you vaccinate us against, and people who have not vaccinated are not even falling sick, because this was really just something which was made and collapse the country, collapse the continent of Africa, deal with BRICS because they have population, and when we come together, I'm happy that a lot of countries now have joined BRICS, especially Iran.
Yeah. Saudi Arabia, Egypt, yeah.
I'm so happy, Egypt, but Iran, that was always the wish of President Zuma, that Iran, he could not just make it during his term. But I know for sure, one of his dreams was to ensure that Iran, especially, and many other countries join join BRICS, and it's a powerhouse. And I hope it will be wonderful moving forward.
I was going to ask you, does it change world politics? You got Saudi Arabia, biggest output of oil. You got Iran, biggest output of oil. Oh, they're also nuclear power at the end of it. You've got Egypt, that's a country in North Africa. Ethiopia is quite a big exporter in a lot of things. And Argentina itself has a lot of growth within its country in terms of raw materials. I know they're going through a economic problem right now, but do you think that changes the landscape?
It changes the geopolitics. No more unipolar. It's a multilateralism. The population, even Africa, we should be on our own. We should rely and confide in. We should trust ourselves. We must have confidence in ourselves as Africa. And I think working with BRICS is going to actually make sure that we are on our own. And we can develop, we can bring more skills, we can share the wealth of South Africa and globally. We can participate in the multilateral forums. So it is wonderful, and I'm happy. And this is where I will congratulate the African National Congress for that move. I will congratulate the government of South Africa. And that's why I don't want to talk too much about the African National Congress. I'm not angry about the ANC. All of us were disgruntled because the ANC did not implement what it was supposed to implement. But I wish them well, and I think we are moving forward.
Mr. Magashule, the ACT enters next year's elections. Very congested political space. We've seen parties like Action SA, Rise Mzansi, Bosa, and Musi Maimane. When the voters go into the poll and they see a long sheet of parties to choose from, as we speak right now, what do you tell the voter that the ACT is your party of choice, even if you can get one or two seats like what the ATM did back in 2019 and the EFF back in 2014 to at least put you within the National Assembly?
Well, I will say this is it's not just a new party. It's a party of all people of South Africa. Join it, and we will discourage other parties to register for elections. I'm sure we will try and say they must come here. This is going to be a big party. It's really a big party. You'll see it. And that's why we'll call upon our business people out there to fund this party. That's why we'll call our members to spend money. Our membership is 100 Rand for the employed. Unemployed is 20 Rand. We still allow young people from 16 years to join this movement. There will be members with free membership, but we want to educate them. They must be part of this movement so that when they become 18 years with time, they understand that this movement belongs to them. We want to be the movement of the hopeless, those who have given up. And we are saying, my brother, my sister, my father, my mother, wherever you are, don't give up, don't lose hope, don't despair when the odds are against you. We have a beautiful country. We must save Africa. We must save South Africa from load shedding. We must act against unemployment. We must get against retrenchment. We must act against privatization. We must act against poverty, unemployment. We must get against joblessness. We must act against load shedding and water shedding, job shedding. We are the hope of South Africans and will remain such. And let's move. Come, the ship is moving. Join it. Let's move together. Rich and poor, let's move.
Mr. Magashule, one final question to end this discussion. You're over 60 years old. I know in politics that still means you're in the game. There's no retirement age when it comes to politics. That appetite for politics, I mean, when you were expelled from the ANC, you could have said, nah, I'm going to go home, pack my bags, be with my family. For you personally,
I was
Why that
ready.
appetite? Yeah.
I was ready because I have served.
Yeah.
I'm happy I've served. And the mistake we did was not to nurture and groom and reproduce what Oliver Tambo and Walter Sisulu and many others taught us, Moses Kotane, reproduce leaders. I think we are too much comfortable, but this is my next move, and I'm prepared. That's why people must join. Young people in numbers are going to join this movement, and we are going to nurture them to take over. And in the majority, in the leadership at all levels, you are going to have young people, you are going to have young women, you are going to have disabled people, all the people I've talked about. We want to see them. And that's why we are not in a rush to decide leadership. The leadership, we are going to give young people that opportunity. Black, white, whatever color, human beings, they will be leading this movement. So I'm ready to retire anytime because I've played my part and many of us have played our part. And I think world politics determines also will tell you that you need this generational mix because you can't say Zuma is too old, Beg is too old. That generation is the generation which could actually cultivate and nurture and make sure that we are baked. We come from the right oven of the revolution. And I'm happy sooner than later, this organization will be led by not just young people, because I hear this thing of even when people want jobs, 18 to 35, what about the 40-year-old man, or old woman, 45, 46, 50? Because retirement is 65. So allow us to go up to 65 probably. But look, check the whole world. Let's not make a mistake. Check the whole world. Who are leaders of the world in Africa, in other continents. So that generational mix is important. Otherwise, we might actually create chaos again. And so let's groom leadership the right way. And I think we are ready to do that as African Congress for Transformation. We are ready to transform South Africa. We are ready to transform the lives of our people. We are ready to activate and agitate our people. We are ready to galvanize them for economic freedom in our lifetime.
Mr. Magashule, I'd like to say thank you so much for joining us here on Talking Point. All the best for for the new political party, the African Congress for Transformation, and let us keep a keenly view how it will be performing ahead of next year's elections.
I like this channel because it is very objective.
So thank you.
Continue being objective. Criticize us where you have to criticize us, but inform the South African public and the entire global public about the developments in our country, in Africa.
That's what we do here at Hilaal TV. And on Talking Point, we have that objectivity. Mr. Magashule, again, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Okay. That's Mr. Ace Magashule, the leader of the African Congress for Transformation. That's all we have for you here on Talking Point. From myself, Fahraaz Patel, and the rest of the team in Johannesburg. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.